Welcome back to Under Review, episode 52. 1 week away from the much coveted 1 year.
Absolutely. This is our last online episode. As of next week, we will be back in the Under Review HQ. So that is pretty exciting. Don't worry, the quality will be better.
It will
But
be
this is the last online episode.
for a while. We are pumped to get back to be able to be at the studio and pumped to celebrate that 1 year mark as well as hopefully a Cowboys playoff win. We'll see about that though. Before we jump into any Cowboys talk or football talk, we'll go ahead and get started with your stat of the week, brought to you by Under Review and Andrews Logistics, our sponsor. The stat is the Jets started 3 different QBs in their last 3 games, and in total they have scored 0 touchdowns. So that's 3 QBs, 3 games, and 0 touchdowns. That's just sad. The Jets have had a roller coaster of a year where they started out pretty hot and ended very, very badly. I think what they really just need is a quarterback, though. They have a great team, great defense, great weapons on offense. They just need a quarterback.
Absolutely. And your player of the week is Josh Allen. He threw for 254 yards, 3 touchdowns, and 1 interception, completing 19 of his 31 passes in a high-scoring game against the Patriots, where they did end up winning and securing their spot in the playoffs. So, attaboy Josh Allen. He's
Congrats,
been here
Bills.
before.
Nyheim Hines also took 2 kick return touchdowns back, which is pretty cool. So Bills were firing on all cylinders against the Patriots. Unfortunately, I'm sure Bill Belichick did not love what he saw from his team there. Safe to say he might not ever be back because Tom's gone. But
I mean, who knows?
You never know. We'll jump into it though. Not much to say about the Cowboys this week. They played like they were on a bye week. I don't think mentally they were there. I think mentally they were in Tampa. What needed to happen was, Eagles and Niners losing for us to get the number 1 seed. The Eagles were playing the practice squad QB on the Giants. There was no need to even play our starters that game. But it was embarrassing what happened in Washington, I will say. I mean, I cannot believe that we made it look that bad. Nick and I were both watching it.
2 weeks, the week against the Titans, obviously we get to win that game, and then losing this week just kind of says that, hey, you got to wake up, right? You can't take any of these games for granted. Like, we're going to play a very, very poor Tampa Bay Buccaneers team on Monday with a struggling offense and very, very weak defense, but that does not mean that we treat this like it's a bye week, because that's, like Joseph said, that's what we did against the Commanders, and we got absolutely embarrassed by a team that's horrible.
I mean, you could just tell our guys weren't there. Washington wanted the win way more than – it was like we didn't even care about winning. Dak was absolutely terrible. Dak threw a pick 6 that was just – I mean, even I could have at least seen that guy was completely covered. He threw it right to the defender who walked into the end zone. Very sloppy from our special teams play, with Turpin muffing a punt, with Brian Anger not being able to catch the snap.
I was about to say, I mean, that's one thing we had been able to fall back on, is that we've had a solid special teams unit. Like, Brian Anger's been doing a great job of being able to pin them way deep in their own territory, which has helped out our defense, but he muffs the first snap that he gets, and so the Washington offense just start out at the Cowboys 20, I think, and then everyone's going crazy for Sam Howell, who threw his first pass in the NFL was a touchdown to Terry McLaurin or whatever. But it was just incredibly sloppy, and like I said, I think the Cowboys just need to wake up and understand that while they're playing a bad team in Tampa Bay, it is against Tom Brady, which can be very scary because playoff Tom is a whole nother animal.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see. I think we'll be a little bit more locked in. I hope we'll be a little bit more locked in for that game. Our defense played okay. I mean, it's hard to be motivated when your offense is producing no points. So overall, the game itself didn't matter much, win or lose. We were going to be the 5 seed, and that's what we got. Eagles clinched the number 1 spot. The playoffs are set.
No surprises there.
there's going to be a bunch of good games this wild card weekend. We're super excited. The Cowboys got the Monday night game. That'll be very much hype, and we will just see. We don't know what Dak we're going to get. We don't know what Cowboys we're going to get. So we're really hoping that we get the ones that want to win and want to play and play hard. But that's enough about the Cowboys because there wasn't really much to talk about there. One of the greatest things I think that Nick and I both saw this week, and probably one of the things that brought us the most joy this week, is that the Lions were able to beat the Packers and keep them out of the playoffs. And that just made me smile when that happened because Aaron Rodgers does not get to see the playoffs this year because he didn't deserve it.
Absolutely. It was awesome. The Lions played pedal to the metal, which I appreciated because they got absolutely nothing out of winning or losing that game. All they got was the joy of taking the Packers out of the playoffs, but the game meant absolutely nothing to them. But they were able to clutch up at the end, and like Joseph said, it just made me smile because we got to see Aaron Rodgers walk home, and he does not get to participate in this year's playoffs, thankfully.
Of course, after the game, he was asked by Jamal Williams, can I have your jersey? And Aaron said, I may need to hang on to this one. And then went on to say, I don't know what I'm doing next year. Therefore, inciting all of the normal, is Aaron going to retire discussions that the media loves to have every season. And at this point, guys, I don't think it should matter either way. He's shown that he doesn't care about football. So whether or not he plays again, I think the same thing will happen next year. If I'm the Packers, I let go of Aaron. I put Jordan Love in there. It's time to move on. And it's been time for the last 3 years.
Well, that was the point of drafting Jordan Love, right? Was to, I guess, let him sit behind Aaron for a little bit so he could learn from a great quarterback and then ultimately fill the role of QB1. But Aaron's just been sticking around. And actually, Jordan did get to come in earlier in the season when they played the Eagles, and it was an extremely small sample size that we got to witness, but he looked pretty good for that because he was playing a great Eagles defense in Philadelphia. So I think there is promise in Jordan Love. And obviously, Aaron likes to do this after every season, get all the attention, all the speculation on him. When at the end of the day, I really don't care. It does not make a difference to me.
No, this is nothing new from Aaron Rodgers, and it's not news anymore. He's not like he was last. He's not the MVP. He didn't even play like the MVP this year. He played like he didn't care about football.
He expects people to talk about his retirement and stuff, like how they treat Tom Brady. But at the end of the day, those are two completely different people. He expects the same amount of media attention when the reality is he doesn't deserve that at all.
And honestly, it wouldn't have mattered if they made the playoffs. They would have played the 49ers and lost to them again. So the Packers were irrelevant this season, even though the media tried so desperately to make them relevant. And you can say whatever you want about the Packers versus the Cowboys, but one team is in the playoffs and one team.
I was about to say, who's on the couch watching the games this weekend and who's in the playoffs? Yeah, that's what I thought.
I think if the Cowboys played the Packers in the playoffs, I think the Cowboys would win. We wouldn't let that happen again.
I
really wish that it would have worked out to where we could have played them in the playoffs because I think we would have won that one. I think we needed that one for our pride. But until the next time we play the Packers, we have a way better. We're 12-5 and they're 8-9. There's just no discussion there, even though everybody wants to try to make one. So that game was one of the, well, if not, I would say it was the most game that was looked forward to this weekend. A lot of this week was sitting starters, and the games really didn't matter much at this point.
That was one of the few games where something was on the line.
Mm-hmm.
The Rams-Seahawks game, there was something on the line there, but other than those two, I can't really think of any other huge games because, the Eagles-Giants one was a big one because that was the difference between them possibly being the 1 or the 5 seed, but the Giants didn't play any of their starters, so...
and I don't blame them.
We were watching first stringers versus a bunch of practice squad guys.
Yeah, the Seahawks, congrats to them for squeaking into the playoffs. Geno Smith breaking Russ's all-time Seahawks passing record.
Mm-hmm.
Good for him there. Obviously, Kansas City clinching the number 1 seed in the AFC. So the playoffs are set, and there will be a bunch of good games, and we're looking forward to watching them all because the AFC especially, a lot of those games could probably go either way. The Bengals beat the Ravens, which means they're playing the Ravens again for week 1 of the playoffs. So The
I'm
AFC is going to be
expecting
interesting.
nothing different there. I think the Bengals come out and beat the Ravens again, but I think you said it perfectly. The AFC could go either way. For the most part, you can guess who's going to win the NFC, but I do think that there's going to be an upset of the Giants over the Vikings because
Mm.
the Vikings are not all that scary. We talked about it last week. They're very weak, and then the Giants have been playing well against good teams this season. They don't typically get blown out, but they've been competing well, and I do think that they're going to upset Minnesota in Minneapolis.
I think so too. I don't think when Kirk Cousins is put under the big spotlights, he has shown that he really can't play the greatest. He's a great regular season quarterback for the games that don't really matter that much. But I mean, Kirk has a chance here to go out and show the Vikings are talent-wise, they're the better team, and they should be the ones that win. But I kind of agree with you. I don't see much happening there. I think the Giants go in and they win the game this time.
I think the Vikings are similar to the Cowboys in the fact that they can play like way up here, but then they can also play way down here. And so it's just a question of what squad shows up that day, right?
Exactly.
Because, I mean, you really don't know.
And the Vikings defense has been struggling all year. They struggled against pretty much every team they played. That's why the games were so close.
It's been proven. Obviously, this is way easier said than done, but if you can shut down Justin Jefferson somehow, you pretty much win the game. Because in the games where he's not producing, they're losing. So if the Giants defense can somehow find a way to, I would say, hold Justin Jefferson to minimal damage, I think they're going to come out on top.
The AFC will be interesting after this week because if everything goes as planned with no upsets, the Bengals and Bills will play each other in the next game. So that's after this week. If they both win, they will play each other, and that much coveted game that we didn't get this year, with all marbles on the table, and then whoever wins that will most likely play the Chiefs. But we will see because I guess whoever wins Chargers Jags is probably going to play the Chiefs the next game.
I want to see the Chargers come out on top on that one. Well, obviously, I don't like the Jaguars because they beat us in the season, and I think you feel the same way. But also, I want to see Justin Herbert and Patrick Mahomes face off under the spotlight of the playoffs.
I will say, if the Chargers play the Chiefs, I would not say the Chiefs are like heavy favorites. I think that the Chargers have a good chance because in a division rivalry, even if it's playoffs, you really never know.
Well, the other thing is that the Chargers have been plagued literally from week one. It's just injury after injury after injury. They've just been struggling to keep guys healthy. So you don't really know the full, I would say, firepower that you can have from your Chargers unit because you don't always have all your guys. So like the last two times you played them, you could see a completely whole different team if you're the Chiefs.
Right. So it'll be really interesting to see these playoffs play out, and we'll be here for all of it. We cannot wait to get back to the studio to talk about this with each other there. And we're getting back just in time for the playoffs, so we're pumped.
I think one last thing before we leave is it is worth noting that this Dallas Cowboys pattern, me and Joseph talked about it yesterday, but I think it would be a good idea to bring it up. I mean, as you know, numbers don't lie. People do.
They don't.
If you don't get anything else, just take this. So the Cowboys, their pattern this season has been lose a game, win 4 in a row, lose a game, win 2 in a row, lose a game, win 4 in a row, lose a game, win 2 in a row, and then they just lost a game on Sunday, which means what is upcoming? Win 4 in a row, which if you do the math, that's wild card, divisional, NFC Championship, Super Bowl. So you could say it's destiny.
Stats don't lie, and you heard it here and under review first. The Cowboys are winning the Super Bowl this year.
Absolutely.
And we're basing that just off that stat because what we saw this week didn't look like a Super Bowl team.
People lie, numbers don't. And
exactly.
I'm reading you the numbers right here. So.
One other thing before we go. Jerry Jones came out today on, I think, The Fan, one of the radio stations, and he was asked if Mike McCarthy's under the hot seat if they lose this week. And Jerry said, no, absolutely not. That's a lie. Mike McCarthy is on the hot seat. Dallas fans want him gone if he can't win a playoff game. And I think if he doesn't win the NFC Championship, he gets fired. So
I was thinking the same thing. I think this playoffs will determine whether or not Mike McCarthy has a job, and I think rightly so, because at the end of the day, it's not super duper impressive that you take your team to the playoffs. While it is somewhat impressive, it's not that insane. 14 teams make it to the playoffs every year, okay? And that's out of 32 teams in the NFL. So you're just barely above
and the
50%.
Cowboys had an easy schedule.
Yes, and we've been 12-5 the last 2 years, but we've had nothing to show for.
Right.
So
Right.
if we get something to show for this year, then sure he can keep his job. But if we lose first round, he's definitely gone. That's what I think.
Agreed. But that was just something to note. But we are excited for the playoffs and excited for the Cowboys. We'll see how that goes
On Monday night. So here's what I like to end our shows on under review. I've brought to you a quote by the Barry Sanders. Maybe a good rule in life is never become too important to do your own laundry. And that's the truth. Okay?
That's true.
Don't be thinking so much better of yourself than you actually are. Okay?
Do your own laundry. You heard it here. We're so happy you joined us this week, and we cannot wait to come to you live from the 143 next week and from the weeks on to celebrate our 1 year in the NFL playoffs.
Absolutely.
But we will see y'all next week here on Under Review.